So welcome and thanks for joining us today for Coffee and Real Estate Scoop with Stacy. We're so excited to have our guest today, Ben Jones. And Ben is with Staircase Photo and Video. He's a father of four and he's the founder and president of his company. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks, Stacy.
Absolutely.
Apparently that Ben's a Hokie too, because that's a very important tidbit for people.
All right, go Hokies. So
yeah, absolutely.
I knew that actually. So, well, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this business and what made you, want to be a photographer. How did that come about?
Well, I started the company back in 2016. So I've been a photographer for many years, and I've also started several companies over the years, and I finally got to the point where I wanted to find a way to mesh my passion for photography with business.
Right.
And the photography business can be a challenge from a profitability standpoint to try and find a really good niche to expand your business. So at the time, I was looking to see what's out there, and I felt like that there was definitely a piece of the pie available for someone when it came to real estate photography. So just with a little bit of exploration and some initial marketing, I started the company, and this at the end of this calendar year will be the end of our 5th year. So
wow, congratulations!
Gradually grown every year, and it's been great. So
that's awesome. Well, good. So if you are someone who is thinking about listing your home, what do you do when you're thinking about what services to get? How do you go about deciding what's right for you?
That's a good question. So I think there are a couple things that are important to look at. Obviously, in today's age, people are shopping for homes. They're starting the shopping process online.
Absolutely are, yes.
Number one, photos are critical. And so and there's some studies that have shown that basically you have as little as 5 to 10 seconds to capture someone's attention. So it's really important that the very first photo that someone sees when they go online to look is a good one that captures their attention. But then the additional photos that are there are ones that are going to want them to see more. So number one, obviously, is a good photo. On top of that, you really have to kind of look at where is this listing, or where is your home going to be marketed? Is it just going to be marketed in the listing service that agents put the information, or is it going to be marketed on various websites? Social media, obviously, social media is huge now. So when you look at those types of media, as far as marketing the home, you have to have a sense of, okay, who's the audience? What's the demographic of the audience? And in some cases, picking services that tailor to that demographic. So if you have maybe an older population that's looking to, maybe it's a 55 plus community, and that's where you're looking to sell your home. Maybe it's just photos, or a light video, a soothing video that kind of walks them through the house. Whereas maybe it's a younger demographic, and the new 3D tours that are available, where technologically someone that's maybe more fluent with their mobile phone and wants to be able to have access to as much information as possible. The thing you have to often think about is that you never know where you're going to get the views. Is it social media? Is it a website? Is it literally a flyer in the front yard? And so you have to think about having something available for all those different platforms, because you just don't know. I had a scenario, this has been probably a couple of years now, but worked with an agent who was selling a home in Lake Ridge, and it was a townhome that was sitting on the Occoquan. and literally a single photo, a single drone photo from the sky that showed the proximity of that house to the river. That photo was posted on Instagram, and that's what sold that house.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, again, it's 5 or 10 seconds. It's the first photo someone saw, and they said, I want to live there. And that got their attention.
Yep.
So
location, location, location. So if your property has that amazing location, then that should be the first photo, obviously. So to get them in there. So
well, it's often the curb appeal. What does it look like? I think often there's a tendency to always want to show the front of the house, the front shot of the house, but maybe it's not the most exciting photo. Maybe we want to show off the kitchen that was just remodeled last week, that sort of thing. So it's the objective is to get their attention and want them to see more. And it's gonna, especially I think we might talk about it later with COVID, but I think it's critical for people to really be able to see quickly if this is a house of interest, and if it's not, okay, let's move on to the next one.
Right, eliminate it, and then just say, nope, next, so. And I know that when buyers are looking, they get frustrated if there aren't any pictures.
Right.
And especially if they're not professional pictures, they get very frustrated. So many times I'm going to find an old listing to get pictures to find, maybe it was sold 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm going in and trying to find other pictures just to give them an idea before we go. So anyway, so what are some of the tips for preparing your listing if you're selling for professional photos? What do you suggest?
So one of the things that we provide to our clients, so our client is first and foremost the agent, but then many times they share it with the homeowner, but it's a tip sheet, and the tip sheet has basically 20 to 30 tips that we recommend for preparing their home for the photo session. And it's broken into various areas, obviously exterior part of the home and the interior part of the home. But when we look at obviously exterior, just some simple things, really cutting the grass. That's sometimes overlooked, but cutting the grass, removing some of the want decorations that people might have in their yard that you have to think about. You have to think about, you want to kind of meet the least common denominator, so to speak, with the people that are looking at the home. And so maybe a lawn ornament that you have that you like may not be something that attracts someone else. And so in that sense, you're kind of decluttering your yard, putting away hoses, putting away trash cans. And obviously, if, as I mentioned, cutting the grass, if pools are becoming a hot item these days. And so if you have a pool, make sure it's been, if it's this time of the year, have it uncovered, have it cleaned. And I think just in general, just you're tidying up the yard. And then when you get into the inside, I think everyone understands that people have to still live while you're trying to sell your home, but we want to declutter and kind of depersonalize as much as possible. And there's some really simple things that we like to emphasize. Obviously preparing for the shoot, all the lights should be on. Fans need to be turned off because you can't successfully shoot a room with a moving fan because you see it just doesn't look right. The important rooms are bathrooms, master bedroom, master bathroom, kitchens, the main living areas. So making sure that those are decluttered. I often recommend hiding any evidence of pets. I think not everyone, but people understand that people have dogs, they have cats. But I think if you're someone that doesn't like animals and you see evidence of an animal in that home in the picture, then it could potentially prevent you from wanting to look at that home. So yeah, I think it's important to hide evidence of pets. Sometimes even evidence of like air fresheners. Obviously, everyone likes to walk into a nice smelling home, but if you see if you see an air freshener in every single picture, is that a sign of something that's being hidden? So that's kind of getting down into the finer details, but simple things like toilet seats should be shut.
Nobody wants to see the inside of the bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of my pet peeves personally. So I go around and shut them all before when I'm there. So.
And I think the biggest one is usually kitchen countertops and bathroom countertops. Trying to declutter those as much as possible.
Right. It's a fine line between staging and being cluttered, you know. So if we have a rice maker and a coffee maker and a toaster and a blender and, you know, just too much. So
one of my latest kind of, I'll call it a pet peeve, but it comes back to lighting. And I think we have a lot of control when we photograph a home, but things that we can't necessarily correct is if you're missing bulbs. So if you have a chandelier that's missing a bulb or a bulb is out, I think it's so critical to make sure that all the lights work, and when they're turned on, all the bulbs are there, because it's part of the aesthetic of what you see when you take that picture or see that picture. So
right, absolutely. So now I know that you do the aerial and drone photography. Tell me about that, and is that something that anybody can do, or is that something special, and how that works?
So drone and aerial photography and videography has become a hotter item lately. About 2 to 3 years ago, it became a lot more popular with the real estate industry. And with that, obviously came regulations and issues regarding safety, because you're basically, you have an object that's flying in the sky. And so it's extremely important that when looking at those services that you find someone that is licensed to do it and has experience doing it. The FAA several years ago basically handed down regulations regarding flying drones for commercial use, which is what this falls under. So, and certainly with the Northern Virginia area, we have some very heavily restricted airspaces, with Reagan Airport being the most restricted. So really the advice that I offer my clients is that if you have a property that you think warrants the use of aerial photography, and some of those examples are a lot of acreage, maybe you're on water, maybe you just have a nice footprint as far as your property. It's really important to investigate in advance with a professional to find out, is it even allowed? Are we even allowed to fly in that location? And so that's the first thing. So we want to find out, are we allowed to fly? And then once we know that, then we can decide, okay, what are we trying to accomplish with flying? Is it trying to show the proximity of the home to a landmark like a river or a lake? Or is it we just trying to show off kind of the size of the house and the structure of the house and everything? So those are kind of the priorities that we look at. I'm a licensed drone pilot, so you have to take a course, and it's a pilot's license that's specific to drone pilots, and the FAA basically says if you want to fly your drone commercially, you have to have a license. So there is a liability from potentially a homeowner standpoint, a realtor standpoint, and the drone pilot if they're not licensed, if something was to happen. There are certain regulations. Obviously, we're not allowed to fly above a certain height. And then, as I said before, we have to be conscious of airports, national parks, Quantico. Those are all places that are heavily restricted, and you have to know the rules before you can actually fly. So it's critical.
Right, absolutely. Totally understood. So what makes or what sets Staircase Photo and Video apart from other photography companies?
I think that one of the things that I have wanted to focus on from the beginning was providing a quality service, but keep it affordable. I think initially when I started the company, I had this perception that many agents chose not to go down the route of hiring a professional because of the cost. And in the end, I think that does a disservice to the homeowner. As a homeowner, you want to best show off your home. And so my objective was to obviously provide a quality product, but make it affordable to everyone, whether it's the agent or if it's the homeowner that's going to choose to pay for that service. And so that was goal number one. And then as I began to work in the industry and work for more customers, I thought a lot about kind of the overall experience from start to finish. So is it easy to order photos or services? What's the process like? Offering up tips so that they're prepared when we arrive.
Right.
And over the years, I've instituted several different means of communication to kind of streamline that process. There's a reminder that goes out 24 hours via email and text now that kind of reminds you of your appointment. When we come out, we try to be as respectful as possible of the home and the homeowner, and wearing booties when we're in the home, and try to be as patient because it can be a stressful time, obviously.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's one of my questions, and how you've adapted during COVID and what's changed.
Yeah. So with COVID, it's there's so many unknowns, and it's been a challenge. And I think one of the biggest things that the ways we've looked at it. So one is being respectful of going into someone's house. And so wearing a mask, wearing gloves to protect everyone, wearing booties. We did institute basically a policy, which looking back on it, I wish I'd done it a long time ago, because I love being able to go into a house with no one there and be able to get our job done. But in all seriousness, the objective was, okay, we're going to protect ourselves coming into your home, and ideally for us to be successful and protect everyone, everyone should be out of the home. So we can get in there quickly. It's ready to go. We can photograph the home and then get out, and then we can all carry on about our day.
The occupants, the pets, everybody.
Get them all out. And in some cases, I know it's not always possible, and we try to be flexible in those cases. I mean, people at home, or maybe they're caring for someone in their home, and being able to work around that. So I think that was being flexible, and but also being conscious of getting the job done. The other side of it was the institution of more services. So we had a huge ramp up in being able to offer 3D virtual services and video services. So what I found was that there was a greater desire or need for those types of services, because even though someone might want to put their house on the market, they weren't necessarily wanting people to come into their house. And so in that case, our 3D virtual tour service allowed us to go in and basically create a three-dimensional virtual model of the house, which allowed someone to look at that home and really see every inch of it and not actually have to come into the home. So I think adapting to that, as well as video has become more popular. So walkthrough videos.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know that I would want to, if I was the home shopper, I would want to see the video first to narrow down, just like we talked about with the pictures, narrow down which ones I want to spend my time physically going to see. And it's surprising how many listings are out there that don't have any video, even a home video, of anything out there. So I think it's important to get another look.
Yeah, and there's so many options out there, and it comes back to you don't know what avenues someone's going to find your home, and so you need to make sure that
cover all bases.
Cover all the bases, exactly, and having the tours or having the video or having the photos, it helps them eliminate the ones that just aren't even a possibility.
Mm-hmm. So what about photography and marketing your property? You've kind of said there's these different ways. So what do you think is best? How would you?
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It comes back to who's looking for that home.
Yeah, demographics, right?
Demographic of the property. We recently did. I mean, that's one of the other things about Staircase is that we really have worked with every possible type of home that's out there. I mean, I've done a 900 square foot condo all the way up to just even a couple of weeks ago, a 12,000 square foot home with what seemed to be a lazy river in the backyard. Right. Magnificent pool. So each one has a different means or has a different way of marketing to it. So sometimes if the market's hot, the neighborhood is hot, the house just shows really well, and it's just simply a photo. Photos can do it. And there's been times when the house even sells before it even goes on the market from some initial coming soon photos.
Right.
So,
right.
I think it's up to the homeowner, it's up to the agent and the photographer to find the best way to promote that home and check off the boxes as far as the different media. So if, as I said, if it's maybe a younger crowd, are more apt to technology with the 3D technology and are good with their phones or on social media, then we want to pick services that are warranted for those spaces. And then, but it's really trying to find, and I've discovered in some neighborhoods, floor plans are important. Mm-hmm. So it's really trying to get a sense of what the audience is looking for in that area.
Especially if it's an older neighborhood and they've remodeled inside, it's very important because don't judge a book by its cover, right? So the front, like you were saying, may not be the most amazing picture, but it might be the fact that they opened up the whole first floor and, has a big great room now and, amazing kitchen. I mean, all that's not what you think when you're looking at some of these older neighborhoods. So having a floor plan for something like that, I would think is huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I often will look at a house from the outside, and I had one recently, I looked at it from the outside and it looked like a one-level Rambler, and it turned into, I mean, they literally had 3 full finished levels. And you wonder, where were they? So it is perspective. And also getting back to drone photos, I mean, being able to kind of show that home proximity to maybe natural landmarks can be critical. So I think, and there have been times when we've had a homeowner come to us or an agent come to us and say, okay, here's the property. go take a look at it and tell us what you think is going to best represent this house.
Right.
And, and I'm really the believer that I don't want you to invest in a service that's really not going to be worth it. And there are oftentimes I'll arrive and someone will have ordered a service and I'll say, you know what, don't do it.
Right.
It's just for this particular home, I would suggest this instead of that. And I think that's another thing that really kind of sets us apart, that I want to make sure that we really are helping them achieve what they need to.
Sure.
And don't spend money that is not really necessary.
No one likes going in for that service.
Yeah.
Whether it's, the doctor or getting your car repaired and hearing that you need all these extra things that maybe you don't really need, right? So it's nice to have someone be honest with you and say, for this particular situation, this is what you need.
Yeah.
And know that it's honest truth. So anyway, back to when you said you email out a reminder and a text. Can you add your clients to that text, or is it just the agent?
So right now it just goes to the agent, but it's an email that includes an attachment, and in as big of letters as I can possibly make it, I recommend that they forward that on to their customer, being the homeowner. And often I'll arrive and I'll hear the statement, "Oh, we got your sheet. We tried to do everything that we possibly could," or I see the sheet in their house printed out on a desk. So it's good to see. But I'll share that with you so we can, anyone that's been watching can take a look at it. But really, it's some of the basics. And again, I think everyone realizes that we have to still live in our house that's on the market, but at the same time, we want to make it show as best as possible. So
right, absolutely. Well, I know that you do commercial as well, commercial properties, and I know you've done some for Ed in the past. Ed, did you have questions?
Yeah, Ben, is there anything that you look at differently when we're doing a commercial job versus a residential?
I think, and this has been specific to some of the work that we've done with you. The aerial photography becomes, I think, in some cases, a bit more important, because depending
Sometimes that's the best side of the property.
Yeah, I remember that. That one. It was it had a lot of cars in the back lot. I don't remember what type of property it was.
Yeah. It was an auto body place. Yeah.
So, like I think when it comes to the commercial side, it's aerial becomes very important. It's a double-edged sword though, because depending on where the commercial property is, if it's more in city central, so to speak, then we may be more conscious of airports and airspace. But no, I think the aerial, and in some cases the 3D tours are important, because we want to give, if it's an office space, someone wants to really be able to visualize what it's going to look like being inside of that space, and even the floor plan, that's going to be critical. So that's an area that I'd like to expand a little bit more into, but I think between floor plans and aerial and kind of more of the 3D, because someone is coming into that space and has a certain type of business that they're trying to get into that space. And I think photos alone is not necessarily going to really capture what they're trying to see. So.
No.
Right.
Agreed. Now, one thing that we've talked to in the past, I want to make sure the audience hears this. Sometimes Stacy or I might contract with a virtual stager. So if, for example, I'm doing office space that's vacant, or we have a house that's vacant, particularly in this day and age, what do you do differently if you know we're going to be using a virtual stager?
So with virtual staging, I think it's important to understand, one, the space that's going to be virtually staged. What is the purpose of that space? So talking about it from the residential side, what type of room is it? Is it a bedroom? Is it a dining room? And we also may photograph it slightly different, because that we know that there's going to be some virtual staging happening. If I know that, let's say it's a master bedroom, and I know that they need to be able to easily present a queen bed in that room, I want to photograph it where I can visualize that bed might be. Whereas if it's vacant, I may not necessarily be conscious of where the furniture is. So I have to think about that space a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I think that's critical. So one, knowing that virtual staging is a potential for that listing, and then knowing exactly which rooms it's going to be, so that we can make sure that we get all the angles necessary to accomplish that. So
excellent. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate everything you've done for my commercial listings. What I need are bigger ones that actually will benefit from your services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I always think back to I think it was a bank, and then there was
did the Matterport office layout. It basically was a car dealership, right?
That was a definitely an example of it looked small from the outside, but once you got inside, it was like it went on forever.
Right. Right.
So you really have to present the inside, or take an approach of presenting the inside so someone can get the full picture of it. So.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. Tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So I generally recommend starting at our website. It's staircasephoto.com. I'm also on social media, Facebook, again, Staircase Photo, and also on Instagram. Those are probably our three best places to find us. Certainly, you're welcome to call me, but I might often be at a shoot. So really, it's the process. The process for scheduling is going to the website. There's some initial pricing there, and you can literally book a shoot online, and we'll confirm that with you. And if it's a need to basically get a recommendation on what's best for your specific home, give us a call, and we can take a look at the property and get some advice on what's going to best present that. And obviously always looking for new customers. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Ben Jones, founder and chief photographer with Staircase Photo and Video. We thank you so very much for joining us today. It was great having you as our guest, and we look forward to seeing you soon at some of our listings.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good
weekend.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.